There we go. Not on. There we go. So the sorts of things that you can expect on a short answer from me. I like things like ordering and matching questions. I don't necessarily like fill in the blank or true false questions. They're a bit too easy to guess, right? I tend to, honestly, ordering questions are a little easy as well, but like you need an easy, at least one easy question on the test, right? There'll be like a fair selection of, what you might say is traditional short answer, like I ask you a question, you write a short answer, right? I'm not going to require you to write essays for the test. If you don't know it in like 2 or 3 sentences, then you don't know it, right? There's nothing more painful than watching someone fumble around for half of the answer for like half of the page. I also like questions where I give you some code and you either point out bugs in it. I'm in the middle of finalizing my server-side exam at the moment, and analyzing code for security vulnerabilities. That's like something that's relevant to that class, right? So there, if any server-side people are watching this video, analyzing security vulnerabilities is going to be a thing that's on your exam. Don't tell them, guys. Don't tell them. It should be fair. Like, I kind of like take the position that like if you've been paying attention to the class, the questions should not be surprising. So yeah, also look at this code and tell me where the bugs are. Look at this code, tell me what the output is another one that I do reasonably frequently. That's like short answer. The point of short answer is kind of to get at some of the stuff that doesn't come out in direct coding, right? Some of the finer points of syntax and semantics, some of the other stuff, right? So, for example, in this course, you should know how HTTP communication works, right? You should know client-server distinction, lots of times on the board, hopefully, actually I can't speak to the first half, but hopefully quite a few times you talked about, this packet's doing this, that packet's doing that, right? Hopefully, right? And at the very least, you should remember some of that from HTML, CSS, or intro networking or something. You should know something about the internet. For coding questions, so in this class, for me, coding questions includes doing an SVG graphic, right? Even though like SVG is like it's like XML, it's not JavaScript, like that. To me, if I want you to like represent a diagram in code, that's code, so it's in the coding section. Aside from that, it's like, write a JavaScript function to do this, write a program to do that, right? The kind of stuff that you would normally expect. Of course, in this class, we're not like translating UML diagrams. You'll be working off of like written language descriptions mostly. Yes?
So given like the first bit of the course we did HTML, CSS, and like Bootstrap, will any of that be on the final exam, or will it kind of strictly be JavaScript?
The first half of the course is testable on the exam. There will be an emphasis on, I just caught myself. I was about to say there will be an emphasis on the stuff that's happened since the midterm, but there is no midterm in this class. It's typically true that if there's a midterm, the emphasis is on the stuff since the midterm. See, the thing about coding courses in general is that the material in them tends to be strongly cumulative anyways, right? It's like, there's not much that we've done in the second, like in any of the course so far, that hasn't required DOM manipulation, right? I don't really need a question on DOM manipulation because every question is a question on DOM manipulation, right? Make sense? But that was a major topic, right? But yeah, yeah, you can expect something from the sort of CSS bootstrap end of the universe.
Like, you have to memorize, like, classes and stuff?
Um,
All of them?
some of the easy
I know
ones.
some of them,
Some of the
but-
easy ones. No, you don't have to memorize all of them, but you know, some of the easy ones. The other thing is, last semester I allowed people to have a cheat sheet for the exam, which I think is fair because the exam is in a situation where you must pass it to pass the course. So yeah, I will make that formal policy. You can have a cheat sheet. So anything that you would spend time trying to memorize, put it on your cheat sheet. Okay? Yes.
So for a cheat sheet, are you gonna post kind of like guidelines for it? Like, you know, going to be like X amount of pages, or you can have like a fully written up JavaScript file, stuff like that? Or?
I will certainly give you the guidelines. I will give them in the announcements feed, but I will also give them to you right here, right now. A cheat sheet is one piece of paper. You may use both sides. That piece of paper is a standard 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper, or an A4 piece of paper. I do not want anybody coming in with a big piece of Bristol board. And you may put anything you like on it. You may put anything you like on it because the test is a secret. If the test was not a secret, then you wouldn't be able to put anything you like on it. But because the test is a secret, you can put anything you like on it. Right? Now, people can kind of trap themselves with cheat sheets, right? There are good cheat sheets and bad cheat sheets, right? So, a bad way to do, here are two bad things that you can do with a cheat sheet, all right? Number one, copy paste large portions of the course content onto your cheat sheet in size 2 font. That's not a good way to use a cheat sheet, right? Sure, much of the information will be there, but you may have difficulty finding it, right? I always remember there was this one guy who I taught in university, when I was teaching at the university. He literally took like almost every slide from the whole course and just postage stamps all over his cheat sheet, front and back. Managed to get most of the slides from the course on there. But like, he literally had a magnifying glass, and he was like, you know, through the whole exam, and it's like, guess what? He didn't do that well, right? Like, the other thing is, simply having the knowledge isn't going to answer the questions for you, because I'm not testing you for memorizing course notes. I'm testing your understanding, largely, rather than, you know, like, this isn't a history class, right? I'm not interested in testing you on what year the Battle of Waterloo took place in, right? I am testing to see if you understand the concepts, which means that the questions will not be, you know, quote me this sentence from the notes. That's not how the test question is going to be. So use the cheat sheet for memory, as a memory aid for things that you find difficult to remember. Summarize the content of the course onto your cheat sheet. Provide yourself a few code examples of this, that, or the other. Right? That's my recommendation. Creating the cheat sheet is the best studying you will do for the exam. That's another reason why I tend to let students use cheat sheets, is because it's actually effectively used. It is an extremely effective way of studying, because ideally what you're doing is you are going through the course material, you're collecting it in your brain, you are summarizing it onto your cheat sheet, right? That process of information collection and summary is extremely effective studying. It's what I do when I have to learn courses. And yeah, but you have to do it yourself. That's the only thing, right? If you're collaborating with other people on the cheat sheet, this is not something I recommend, because basically you're outsourcing your studying to someone else, which is a bad long-term plan when you are also going to, your friend who made your cheat sheet isn't going to write your exam for you too, right? It is good to compare notes once you've made it, because maybe they found some interest, some area that you forgot to put on your cheat sheet or something like that, right? It's good to compare, but only after the thing has been produced, right? Don't be like this group of students I had last semester who, four of them all had the exact same, just printed off the same cheat sheet, and they were all watermarked with some anime girl. Don't do that.
What would you rather us watermark it with?
More data. It was the watermark was so faint it looked like somebody had just stepped on the page, unless you looked in and squinted. But yeah, if your parasocial relationship is that important to you that you require your anime waifu's support through the exam, then I guess I can't say anything about it. But just remember, you're there for a purpose, and that purpose is to pass JavaScript. Yes. Oh, and another terrible idea is to get the infernal chatbot to summarize the course notes for you. It is, again, robbing you of the best opportunity for studying that you will have, which is summarizing the stuff yourself. So, any question? You had a question.
Yeah, so I don't know if you already mentioned this, but since it's going to be pen and paper, are we going to be afforded the same sort of leniency for code?
The same sort of leniency that you receive in Java.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in general, I don't care about semicolons and braces and the odd misplaced comma and that sort of thing. Things I do get narky about are I was going to say types, data type errors, but this is JavaScript, man. Right? The types practically don't even exist, man. But yeah, if there's one area which from past experience I recommend people brush up on, just kind of from the historical experience of teaching the course, it is the material on functions. Anonymous functions particularly. People tend to not have a great handle on that material, and it's pretty dang essential for programming JavaScript. So anonymous functions, put that on the top of your list of things to study. That's my kind of recommendation for topics. But in the final week of the class, we will be doing a great big fat review session. And that will, I even have a kind of a mock exam, which I'll print off and I'll bring in for you. It's not as long as the real exam, but it is composed of questions which I wrote and then discarded from like last semester's Java exam. If I have any that I write and then discard from this, I'll put those on the practice test and flesh it out a little bit, but it should give you like the feel for the format and all that kind of stuff. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You were saying something about packets and having knowledge on the internet. Can you start something on that?
So it's covered in this course in like the week 0 material, I believe. But between client and server, who initiates communication? Between client and server, who initiates communication? Client every time, yes. Client sends the request packet, server responds with a response packet, right? That whole loop, it's important to know. The order in which things are loaded when you load the file, right? That's also important to know, right? Things like, how does the browser load an HTML file? How does that load a JavaScript file? There's no coding question I can ask you about that, but that's certainly fair game for a short answer. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other questions? Okie dokie. So, shall we talk about assignment 5 then?
Yes.
Bloom's taxonomy is stupid, by the way. Okay, let me tell you very briefly how all of your educations were ruined by Bloom's taxonomy. All right. So this is the theory around which exercises are designed for students, including in this very program. In fact, we can't get a course outline past, the oversight bodies without paying an extreme degree of homage to this particular model, right? Now, what's the top of this pyramid? Creativity, right? This is kind of fundamentally understanding creativity, all right? Creativity as a facet of human behavior. Most people are not creative, right? It actually, it's quite rare to find someone who's actually truly creative, right? And that's okay, because creativity is actually a high-risk, high-reward survival strategy, right? Most people fare just fine in their lives not being very creative at all, right? But because they decided to put creativity at the top of this pyramid, the impulse of all educators who follow this doctrine is to try to constantly push people up the pyramid, right? This is the reason that you learn, this is the reason you did so much coloring in elementary school, right? Coloring things in is seen as a creative exercise. So they're trying to push you up the pyramid, yeah.
I don't know if it's just because of the way I learned, but it doesn't seem very intuitive for me, this pyramid, because for me, I would probably swap analyzing and remembering.
Analyzing and remembering?
Yeah, I need to, for me anyway, I need to analyze something, understand it, apply it before I'm able to retain it, because otherwise I can't, so.
Yeah, I mean, this is one guy's opinion, right? Yeah, I mean, that's a good point actually, because in order to mentally catalog something, you first have to be able to categorize it, not the other way around, right? You don't just memorize all kinds of stuff and then post hoc come up with a system of organizing that which you have remembered. you categorize it first, and then that allows you to remember it. And by the way, that's good studying advice, right? If all you're trying to do is memorize, like, if what you're trying to memorize is all of the, 1,000 decimal places of pi, then you're just memorizing a sequence of numbers. If you're trying to memorize the sequence of numbers in pi without, if you're trying to memorize all of the digits in pi and you're trying to pull out like the 32nd digit and you don't want to have to go through the whole thing to get there, you need a different system of organization in your brain, right? You need categories. You need to categorize information. So yes, so that's why, even at this level, it's like, it's okay every once in a while to do something that's creative, like assignment 4 was fun, right? Assignment 4 is more creative. But I guarantee you, like, pretty much every time I do assignment, every time I'm grading assignment 4, I would say that probably only about 10 to 20% of the responses I get are something I would consider creative, And like, I'm not saying that as a slight, because, it's fine, it's absolutely fine to not be creative, right? It's actually interesting, creativity is actually negatively correlated to productivity in grad school. So if you're doing a master's degree or a PhD, creative people do worse than people who aren't creative, but can just kind of grind out research. So, it's not the pinnacle of human achievement, as much as artsies would like to think so. Boom. All right. Bloom's taxonomy destroyed. Moving on. I want that assignment. The dudes. Is it released? Let's see here. It's
Yeah.
released. Okay. So, assignment 5. Assignment 5 is definitely an assignment that I would categorize as being not requiring any creativity. So, the object of this assignment, you're going to write JavaScript which sends AJAX requests to the server, to CS Unix. CS Unix will respond with some data, JSON encoded, much of it. Your object is to take that data and create portions of a web page with it. So, you will be, of course, using DOM manipulation. You will be retrieving data from remote systems using AJAX, processing JSON data retrieved from a remote system and displaying it using JavaScript DOM manipulation. Even this encodes Bloom's taxonomy, right? These are like the Bloom's verbs that apply to different categories. Practice, right? And practice is implied here as well. Or you process things. It's like that's why these things are in documents. Because at the top of the document you have to tell the other teachers what category in Bloom's you're praying to. So it is a religion. It's a religion. It's a religion. So when you are using the AJAX, you will be using the fetch requests that we have been using in class so far. Please do not use jQuery or XML HTTP request, because both are outdated and there is a strict moratorium on use of jQuery. Any jQuery whatsoever is unacceptable. So yeah, do it the way that we did it in class. If the chatbot gives you anything other than what we did in class, tell it to give you what you did in class, which is a thing that you can actually do. So, you don't even have to say what you did in class, just say, do it the way we did in class. It knows. That's a joke. So, in this assignment, oh my goodness. You can tell who wrote this one, right? Sorry, Steve. Sorry, Steve, but you talked too long. There we go. The requirements start here. You will create a page with 3 buttons, first, second, and third. You will also have an input element. You can pick the type of input element that you feel best solves the problem, but if you want a recommendation from me, it's radio buttons. When any button is pressed, you will be sending an AJAX request to csunix.mohawkcollege.ca ~Adams 10259 at assignment 6 responder.php. Assignment 6, but this is assignment 5. So, below you will find the details of what each request should do. To work correctly with CS Unix, the request must originate on CS Unix, otherwise it's a cross-site scripty thingy. If you try to test your work on your local computer, you will see a CORS error. A cross-site scripting error will happen. To develop your solution, you can, okay, all right. So if I can't develop it locally, how am I supposed to develop it, right? You can request the script, get some data from it, copy that data in as a variable, do some development, test it out, and then you can, you can develop it a certain degree that way. But because this is like you have to communicate with the server for this one. You're going to have to work a bit more intimately with CS Unix than you have on previous assignments. This one's not really one where you can do it all offline and then just, throw it up on CS Unix 3 days after the deadline, right? Testing it on CS Unix to make sure it works is mandatory for you to pass, because if all of your fetch requests fail at the level of, I can't even read the PHP script, there's not much I can do for you, right?
I find that CS Unix doesn't load your work all the time.
Then start early.
No, you give it hours, and then maybe it starts working the next day or something. It's kind of weird. Even some of the assignments I uploaded, the thing doesn't start working until the day after.
Then give yourself that time. If that's a known problem, and you're telling me it's a known problem, then do your assignment 3-4 days before the deadline, so that you give yourself time, if you need to fix it up, to do that, right? Because that's what you would have to do in a production environment. And this is still 2 weeks out, and this assignment isn't the most difficult one in the course. The most complicated thing that you're doing here, the hardest thing you're doing here is like generating an HTML table from JSON, and the trickiest thing you're doing here is getting 3 images to be to be the same size inside of 3 divs, right? So it's not, once you've got the AJAX communication under control, actually generating the web page is not substantially different from the stuff that we've done so far. So let's talk about these buttons. The first button sends an AJAX request, why did I take my glasses off? With no parameters. You should expect the response to be text. Create an H1 element with this text and your student number. Make the text centered in a container that fits across the entire width of the page. So basically, can you do AJAX Hello World? That's number 1. Right? Easy enough. Button number 2. So we should discuss the input element. Whatever type of input element you choose, if you send Mario or Star Wars, one of those 2 strings, to the server, you will get in response a JSON containing that data. Copy, link address. Like you can just query it, right? So there you go. You can see that if choice is Mario, we get a random selection of amiibos. We get actually a list of objects. The list can contain between 1 and 3 elements. If you have entered Star Wars rather than Mario, then you get a whole bunch of really quite obscure Star Wars characters from the extended universe. I guess, I don't know, some of the Nintendo characters are obscure as well, but I'm pretty sure some of these only appear in the Star Wars novels and stuff. Anyway, so that's the data that you have to process. Let's take a look, let's break it down. Let's get ourselves an entry. There we go. So, that's what one of these data entries looks like. You have 3 fields: name, series, and URL. That's URL. That was a joke. These 2 pieces of information are integrated depending on whether you're doing the table or the divs. In both cases, you're kind of just writing them in, right? This one, in the case of the divs, you set that to the source attribute of an image, which means that the image will actually show up on the page based on the link. In the table, you don't do that, you just give it as a link, right? Which is actually, from a programming perspective, almost an identical process to making it the source attribute of an image. You make it the href attribute of a link, an a link, right? That sort of thing. And you give it the same thing as the link text. But, does that make sense? You have an array of these, and you have to do stuff based on how many of them you get, right? with me so far? This is making sense? Any questions? All right. Cool. So this region here this is what button 2 does, right? This is your this is like your button 1 output. Here, this is your button 2 output. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, but it should look roughly like this. So if you get 1, 2, or 3 entries back, you display 1, 2, or 3 images. Now, things that get you style points, and style points are actual points in the rubric, right? Things that get you style points, keeping the height of these images constrained, so that when I have one image, it's not like that big, right? Making sure that these have the same height, right? Yes?
So you mentioned you recommend radio buttons. If you have them like turned off, for example, when they show like what's currently active, is that what you're going for?
Yes. So I actually kind of hate that requirement because it interferes with me testing it. It's like there's no entry for it in the rubric either, so don't worry about it too much. But yeah, I don't know why it's in there. I don't know why, but like probably just to so you can demonstrate that you know how to disable an input, I guess. You know, but so there's a requirement in the document that once you've sent either Mario or Star Wars, you're basically locked into them before until you reload the page, and you do that by like disabling the input control. So you know, I don't consider that to be a primary requirement. The primary requirement is make this look nice. This isn't even a good example. Look where this dividing line is. Is that 50-50? Doesn't look like 50-50 to me.
Sorry, so the radio button, is that for choosing if you're selecting Mario or Star Wars?
Yes.
Oh.
A lot of the yeah, sorry if that wasn't clear. A lot of the time people kind of just throw down a text box because like that's the default thing you do, right? But like if the server is expecting the exact string Mario or the exact string Star Wars, one, from my perspective grading it, it's much faster to click a button than type it out, so I would appreciate it personally. But number two, I will justify that from a user design standpoint, right? Why would you give the user the option to mess that up, right? Why would you give the user the option to create a typo which breaks the whole thing, which can very easily happen, right? Radio buttons don't give the user the opportunity to make that typo, whereas, good morning, providing a text box absolutely gives the user the opportunity to produce as many typos as they like, right? Make sense? So that's why I recommend radio button. So, 1, 2, or 3 images. The requirements actually say that the divs should be equally, be of equal widths. So if you have 1, the div is of width 100. If you have 2, 50-50. If you have 3, 33, 33, 33. As I said, this is not a good example. Yes.
The button part's still kind of confusing. So it'll be a blank web page when you first load it. When you click the first button, then you get that menu. Okay.
Yep. When you first load the page, it's really quite bland. Some people put like nice little backgrounds in them, but you know.
And the other buttons will just disappear.
Oh no, the buttons don't disappear. in fact, by re-clicking the button, you basically refresh these images, right? So refresh, which means you delete these and reassign them with the new data that comes in, right? Does that make sense? There's actually like a fairly substantial point deduction for just kind of appending child every time you get new data instead of like rubbing this out and writing in the new one. Make sense? Make it look pretty. Use Bootstrap. This is why we gave you Bootstrap, because you can accomplish that quite easily with something like image fluid, right? So, I don't care how you do it, just make it look nice. This table, this is what the button 3 output looks like. That's kind of as I was describing earlier. When the third button is pressed, an AJAX request with the value of the input element as a post parameter is sent. The valid values allowed by the server script are Mario or Star Wars. Oh, that is an error right there. It is Star Wars with no space. Write that down. Star Wars with no space is valid. You should expect the response to be a JSON string. The string will encode an array of objects, same as in the previous question. Basically, the output from button 2 is the same as the output from button 3. The response from the server in the case of button 2 and 3 is the same, right? The only difference between them, in button 2's case, you get between 1 and 3 entries. In button 3's case, you get between 1 and, I believe, 15 entries, right? But this is why we have loops, right? You have loops to be able to deal with lots of entries. So, basically, come now, you weren't intending to do that by direct addressing and if statements, were you? Come now, we've moved past that by now. Loops are your friends. Loops are your friends. Loops are your... I'll stop. So, you'll notice here, just a bunch of entries, right? So, here's a common pitfall for this assignment, and also a common pitfall for AJAX queries in general. If you are sending parameters by post, that means that they are not query parameters in the URL. If you are sending parameters by get, it means they are query parameters in the URL. The topic of today's actual lesson, once we actually get to it, will be how do I send get parameters by AJAX? How do I send post parameters by AJAX? We'll be doing examples of both of those. But understand it's quite easy to send a get request, a get parameter accidentally, because you can set the method to post, but you can still send the information by get, right? Both get and post both get and post requests can have both get and post parameters, right? So when it's get, it doesn't mean you only have get parameters. When it's post, it doesn't mean you only have post parameters. You can mix and match, right? Sometimes you might even have a reason to do that. But if you kind of stupidly copy your AJAX request from the first one to the second one without making enough modification and you're still sending the get parameter, the script is configured to respond to a get parameter first. So, this is how you can tell. This is how you can tell if you're doing it correctly. If you try it a bunch of times, click, 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 and this table never fills up with more than 3 entries, you are sending a get parameter. You are at least sending a get parameter, possibly in addition to a post parameter, right? But you are definitely sending a get parameter, and that means that it's not the post request that we are asking for, that I am asking for, right? Does that make sense? A little bit? It'll make more sense once we get into the material today, but basically, your red flag is if you never see more than 3 entries in this table. There's something wrong. Okay? Make sense? Good, good. There are a couple of other miscellaneous requirements. Just so that we don't get, sky lasered out of existence by Nintendo's extremely litigious copyright department. When you generate the Mario stuff, put a Nintendo copyright notice in. When you generate a Star Wars thing, put the Star Wars copyright notice in. It should appear in 2 places. Underneath the images, when you generate the images, and underneath the table when you generate the table. So both of these have their own copyright notice. They're not shared, even though you've ostensibly locked it in to one or the other. Does that make sense? Okay. I think that's about the long and the short of it. Note, there is no guarantee the user will not change input between button presses, except you said that you wanted it. So how will you make 2 pieces of content match each other? You may choose to disable the input tag once one of the second or third buttons is pressed to avoid state track management and a more complicated situation. So basically, the requirement is, it's a mistake if Nintendo's copyright is shown on a Star Wars table, right? That's a mistake that will lose you some small number of marks. So if I'm flip-flopping between the 2 of them, I don't think it's that hard to just update the copyright too. I think that's fine. So either disable the input or update the copyright according to what you've updated. Make sense? Bootstrap. It simplifies layout. That's the whole purpose of it, right? You can cut down a lot of time on this assignment by making good use of Bootstrap. This assignment does not have to be kind of in the same vein as assignment 3. It doesn't have to be all that pretty, right? I'm looking for it working mostly, right? That being said, a nice design is always appreciated, but that's interesting. I've actually not actually graded anything you've done in this class yet, so I don't even know if you guys do pretty websites or anything. I imagine at least a few of you do. So, does that make sense? Okie dokie. You guys should know how to hand it in by now. Again, this is one where it must, I will reiterate, it must be tested on the server, right? You cannot test it locally. The best you can do locally is visit the page, generate some sample output, right? Pull that in as like assigning it to a variable inside your JavaScript and pretend that that's the output from your AJAX request, right? Until you have it up on the server, you cannot test your AJAX requests. So that's what you have until you can, right? And I know like people are not like CS Unix may or may not be accessible on the weekend. That's your weekend option. That's your I'm out of the office on the weekend, that's what I'm going to do option, right? So a thing I recommend doing, like even right now, generate yourself a few of these, save them to a file on your computer right now so that you can work on this at home, because accessing this PHP script also requires you to at least be VPN'd in, and the VPN can sometimes be a little bit, well, let's just say that as a Linux user, I don't even get support. So, make sense? All good? Any questions? Good? Okay, I realize that took like half the class to go through the exam and then this assignment, but honestly, I never feel like time I spent talking about an exam in class is wasted, you know? People usually are interested in the exam. That being said, I think it makes sense to have our 15-minute break at this point because we haven't quite gotten into the actual topic yet. So let's do that. Let's have our 15-minute break, and when we resume, we shall do the actual class. Don't worry, we'll still get through the material. Yeah, I'll, So I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this directly on the server. Because I can. So, when I was in university, I took a C programming course, and I had to do literally all of my assignments in PuTTY, like using Vim. Let's see here, appearance. Is this font good enough for you folks in the back row? Yeah, you can read that? I'll make it bold so it stands out a bit better. College.ca. Boop. So, alrighty. So far, we've seen how to acquire the contents of files using fetch requests. We've seen how to do a PHP hello world and fetch that. And we did a little bit of light JSON processing as well. But sending data to the server in addition to the actual request, that's a fairly important thing to know how to do. So we are going to cover that now. So let us briefly review. Get and post. So, can anybody tell me what's the difference between a get request and a post request?
Get is just, you have the thing in the URL,
Mhm.
like, it is not hidden,
Yes.
but post is hidden. It's like, you
Mhm.
cannot see, like,
So, when I'm talking about, the category of information that would constitute a short answer question that has to do with like how the internet works, this is the type of topic I'm talking about, right? So, we all know, or we should all know, that HTTP communication occurs in data packets. We don't really have to concern ourselves with how packets are transferred around the network. That is not our jobs. Our job is to program software. The networking guys get to worry about how to hook the stuff up and run actual physical cables. Physical reality. But we should still know what a packet is. So, the packet is the thing that contains the data. It's the actual, sequence of ones and zeros that gets sent as a unit through the network, right? Packets have two regions. Can anybody tell me what the two regions of a packet are?
Is it the header?
Header is one, yes, very good. You know what the other one is called?
Segment?
Segments,
Payload?
payload. Payload is correct. You might also call it content, but generally it's the payload, right? This header, the purpose of the header is to tell the internet where this is going to, where it's coming from. The purpose of the payload is to be the content, the data that the header is serving to move, right? You can think of this as being all of the cars in the train and this being the engine, right? So, let's talk encryption. Is the header encrypted? It can't be, right? The network has to be able to read the header because the header tells us where the packet is going. If the header were encrypted, then every single node in the network would need to be able to decrypt it, and if every single node in the network can decrypt something, it's not much of an encryption, is it? Right? What do you want to do? Set up a TLS handshake with every single node in the network that you're going to pass through to get to your destination? Come on. How about the payload? Is that encrypted?
it can be or it cannot be, based on post and get method? Or?
Actually, no. You're right that it can or it can't be, but not based on get or post. This is encrypted for HTTPS, right? If it's just regular HTTP, well, it's not that it uses no encryption, but the encryption it uses isn't good enough, right? That's the problem. So HTTPS, the payload is secured using HTTPS, right? So, when we send get parameters, are those parameters put into the header or the payload?
Head,
In the header. Right. One of the things that's in the header is the URL. You'll notice that when we send query parameters, they are sent in the URL. So, get parameters occur in the header. How about post parameters?
Payload?
Yes. Post parameters are sent in the payload. So post parameters are secured with encryption. Here is a question. Do you send username or login data in the get?
No.
No, you use post. Do you send a person's bank account information by get? What do you send by get then? What's the purpose of it? Like if it can't be trusted, why do we even have it?
You should request like pages in your app, like specific pages.
Request specific pages? Yeah, you could.
Like a specific parameters that we have in the page somehow. Like,
But what's the advantage over sending them securely by post? Because get does something that you can't do with post. There is a reason for it.
Cache memory?
Sorry?
For the cache memory? For the cache memory?
Cache memory, yes, good. So the get parameters, right? Because they're part of the URL, they're part of your history, right? They're part of the cached memory, and additionally, because it's part of the URL, when you create a link, right? You can create a link such that it includes get parameters. You can't do that with post, right? So if you wanted to share a YouTube link to a funny cat video, that funny cat video must be accessible from a get parameter rather than a post parameter. So get parameters are shareable as well, which, becomes increasingly important in the modern social networky form of the internet, right? Good. So, sending get parameters is easier than sending post parameters. But first, we need a PHP script that will show us what parameters we sent. So, cd public HTML. You can also do this with WinSCP if you prefer. Public HTML. Oh, let's cd to S2025, summer 2025. What do I got in here? Let's make directory Ajax 2_2. cd Ajax 2_2. There we go. Empty directory. Now, I'll give you just a moment to copy those commands, or basically just navigate yourself to an empty directory inside of your public HTML folder. If you're doing this using Python. If you're doing this using WinSCP, then just use the GUI.
When it's asked for your login, do I put my student ID?
It's lowercase s, lowercase a, then all of the digits of your student number.
I watched your video, you didn't use touch, so I used Nano too. But I like when you touch and then like, O for writing out, like, it's like stage again. Because I had chemistry last class, because it was for my math test.
Yeah. I'm trying to use a minimal set of commands to not destroy the brains.
I'm surprised there is no like Linux for getting the software from, because you need Linux so much.
I mean,
I feel like
there's a certain amount of it, like in kind of the upper semester territory.
I really don't know why I was actually working.
Don't have to sell me.
No, I'm
Yeah.
surprised that this couldn't, how did it work? You're the
How you go to CSA?
Would you like to know what I'm currently in the process of doing to server side?
How you upload your
You have to
assignment?
do us a little bit already.
A little bit,
Am I in?
but basically, week one, I drop a Debian VM on you, and I'm like, this is what you're doing your assignments in. So,
That's awesome.
learn some Linux.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know. I feel like you read Magic Wand or get like a Raspberry Pi for like this week.
Yeah,
And they're pretty cool.
yeah, and like, you know, with like, it's kind of funny because using Node, the way that I've configured things to use Node is like, it's inside of a Docker container, which is Alpine Linux, running inside of a VM, which is Debian. So it's like, inside of your current Linux, there's another Linux. Go mess around with that Linux, then escape to your previous Linux. It's like Linuxception. It's Linux all the way down. Yeah, Linux is best. Linux, like, just so you know, this is a note to the whole class, Linux is an employable skill. Linux is an employable skill, all right? This, because people find this difficult. Anything that's difficult is employable. If it's easy, then you can't get paid to do it. That's how it works. That's how it works, people. All right, let's make a PHP script. I'm going to use Nano. If you want to use something else, that's that's up to you. Nano is the easiest for beginners, though. Nano sponder.php. There we go. Throw in my PHP opening tag, closing tag. Now, the next two lines aren't going to make a whole lot of sense because we haven't done PHP. Please just copy them down. Echo JSON encode get concatenate a break tag, and maybe we say, just be a little user friendly, get parameters. There we go. And echo post parameters. I know the spaces don't show up in HTML, but I like it because it lines things up. JSON underscore code post. Like, if you can align stuff by just adding a space, why wouldn't you? It makes it look so neat and clean. So, basically what these two lines of code do, in PHP, get and post are called superglobal arrays. When the server receives get and post parameters, that's where they put them. So, by echoing the contents of these two arrays, we can get the server to tell us what we sent it. Make sense? Hopefully. You'll see how it works. PHP is a bit of a funny language. In order to view these superglobal arrays as strings, you have to JSON encode them. You can't just directly string convert and it knows what to do with it. In fact, if you attempt to string convert these things, it just gives you the word array. All arrays string convert as the word array in PHP. We're going to have fun next semester. So, everybody have that? Good, good. Save, exit. Very good. Now we need an HTML HTML page, index.html. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, why we should be able to. Does everybody have one from like previously available from last week? Okay, we'll make a new one then. Nano index.html, doc type HTML, HTML. At this point, you should be able to crack one of these off with great rapidity. Everyone have them? Put your hand up if you need a little more time. All right, ready? Steady? JavaScript. Wait, did that save? Yes, it did, okay. If you want to check the contents of a file from the command line, you can use the cat command. Cat is short for catalog. It is not short for cat.
Oh, I thought it was short for concatenate to that. So I learned something.
Oh, really?
I don't know, I could be wrong.
It might have more than one origin. Concat, yeah. Anyway, so nano. As long as we don't have a greps of wrath situation. Nano ajax.js. So the purpose of this is to, like, we're not going to do anything terribly fancy with the Ajax, with the response once we receive it. We're simply going to print it to the console. But the purpose of this is to demonstrate how you send GET parameters. So let's write a fetch request. Fetch responder.php. Let's write a regular one that doesn't send any parameters. That's got to be quoted. Good gracious me. There we go. Then, so although in our PHP script, although you may be tricked into thinking that this is JSON output because we've JSON encoded this twice. It's actually not, because we have also included HTML tags, right? So this is just string. We should be interpreting this as text. Alright? It won't parse as JSON. So, data, arrow, data dot text. Then, boop, there we go. Response, arrow, console.log, response. Very good. Save. I'll give you just a moment. But this is basically our hello world of Ajax from last time, right? So, if we go to the directory we put it in, CS Unix, at lure at S2025 / Ajax 2_2. There we go. Check the console. Okay. Well, the break tags don't really work unless it's like actually put into the HTML, but that's okay. We could put it into the HTML. You want to put it into the HTML?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Function, response, let's p equal document dot create element p but I just let you tab over as much as you want there, friend. P dot inner HTML is equal to response document dot query selector body dot add append. I always get that next up. Append child p. Which, hopefully everybody remembers this. This is the way that you create a new object in JavaScript and attach it to an object. In this case, we're attaching it to the body, which, basically just puts it at the end of the body, right? Yes, I know, it's slightly humorous. Save, let's see how it works. And there you have it. We don't need to check the console anymore. There you go. Since we don't, well, okay. There you go. You don't have to put that in. That's a joke. Okay. So we've got it working. Next, to send a get parameter, So sending get parameters is, it's something that forms do automatically, right? But we want to be able to derive the information from JavaScript. We want to, in theory, be able to send JavaScript variables to PHP. For this, it starts to make sense to take this string and pop it outside as a variable so that we can do some string manipulation on it in a more, JavaScript-y kind of way. Not cluster everything together. So let's let URL equal, or let resource. How do you spell resource?
RESOURCE.
There you go. Thank you. Responder.php. Let parameters equal something. And then when we request a resource, we concatenate the query string. The query string starts with a question mark. The parameters themselves can be produced in any manner you please, really, but in the end you will be concatenating a string together. Kind of similar to doing a two-string output in Java, right? So, let's say I have let name equal Dr. Moore, let age equal none of your business. Right? The way I might take these two parameters and put them in is essentially to replicate how query parameter strings look everywhere else. My favorite example, of course, is YouTube. Boop. Oh man, because I didn't teach you the first half, I didn't get to show you the thing where I turn every link on a Wikipedia article into a rickroll using JavaScript. That's fun. So this is the thing we're attempting to reproduce, right? If you take a look at the structure, right? You have keys and values, which are separated by an equal sign. The first one has a question mark. Every one after that has an ampersand, right? So, if you have enough parameters, you might want to write a loop to do this. But without that, you can simply say something like plus the word name equals name and age is equal to age. We'll see if the spaces come through. Maybe I should try it without the spaces. We'll try the spaces to see if they work. URLs are sometimes a little funny about spaces.
It works.
Awesome. I was worried for nothing. So, if we reload the page, you can see that the PHP script is reporting back to us that it received 2 get parameters, name, Dr. Moore, age, none of your business. Notice, however, that the parameters don't appear up here, right? That's because this is an AJAX request, right? We didn't request this through the URL. We didn't trigger a page reload. These are get parameters that have been sent from AJAX. Make sense?
Okay, so then that means like they come in when you load the index page? Like at what point does it?
Let's talk about the timeline. So, let's say that this is the index page, right? You load the page until you hit the script tag, right?
Yeah.
The script tag then executes the JavaScript. In here, there's a fetch, right? That sends it out onto the internet, right? But that doesn't stop execution of the script, right? Execution of the script will terminate, and the HTML will resume. Right? Until the response happens. Request, response. Once the response happens, it interrupts the execution, it interrupts the loading of the page, or if the page has finished loading, it just runs, right? It doesn't interrupt anything, it just runs. Interrupts any other JavaScript it might be doing, right? It interrupts whatever else is happening and runs the callback function. So basically what this is it's a software interrupt, right? This is kind of, like, this is not dissimilar from the event-based programming we've been doing so far in JavaScript, right? The response triggers the callback function the same way that a click event triggers the click function when a click occurs. The only difference is it's not the user triggering it. It's hearing back from the internet that triggers it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So then there's no page reloading. It just like the HTML just changes when that inner HTML line runs and the response. That was the only confusing part to me, the no reloading part.
Yes. Yeah, it's yeah, there's no reloading. It's like if you trigger an AJAX request and you navigate away from the page before you hear back from it, it's just lost. Right? Because the page that's running that JavaScript isn't running anymore. Right? We're not, the whole point of AJAX is that we are requesting information from the server, but the information from the server is not even necessarily an HTML page, right? This fetch request is not usually for an HTML file. It's usually expecting like JSON back or some small snippet of data, right? It's not expecting a whole page. You might go and fetch an image or something, right? But like, the browser already has pretty good mechanisms for fetching images, right? So, yeah, it's really like mainly just pieces of data that we're going out after.
Yeah, to personalize the page for the user.
Precisely. Yeah, personalize the page for the user to respond to things that the user wants to do. for example, if you take like any social media thing where you make a post, right? The act of clicking post this will be an AJAX request. You are AJAXing the data that you want to put onto the server's database, right? And by the way, the reason they call that posting is because of the HTTP method that's used to do it, right? Like that's one instance where like something related to technical artifacts of the internet actually makes it into like common parlance. Posting something means sending it to a server by post. That's what posting is. So, yes. Make sense? Any questions? Okay, so we have sent get parameters successfully. So far, so good. Now, let's send post parameters. So post parameters are a bit trickier. There's more to do. Oh, you have a question? I'm sorry?
I may have missed it. Is there a difference between the question mark and the ampersand in your params?
Yes. So question mark means I am starting query parameters. Ampersand separates query parameters. So, for post data then, we create another fetch request. We are fetching the same resource, there you go. We are expecting the same stuff back. In fact, let me see here. Go, come on. There we go. So that operation that I just performed, a copy paste, you highlight, and then you right click, and that performs a copy paste, and it inserts it where the cursor is.
What do you undo?
Backspace. Or I think I don't know. Get help? Nope. Close. There we go. Backspace.
Control K deletes a line at a time. So it's like Control
Oh.
K delete the lines.
There you go. I don't actually use nano that much, but all right. It's functional for what it does. So the first thing that we would need to do is to modify the method by which this is being set, right? Fetch requests, just like URL requests, link requests, and form requests, they all default to get, right? If we want to send anything different, we need to say so. The way that you do that, fetch has an optional second parameter. This parameter takes an object. Into this object, you put options, such as method post. Make sense? So, save that, reload. So here's an interesting thing. What's the order that these fetch requests occur in?
First get and then post.
First get and then post. What order did I hear back from them in?
Just the,
First post and then get, right? Asynchronous communication. You cannot guarantee that things will be received back in the order you send them, right? You cannot, well, you can, but you have to use something called await. There is actually a JavaScript command that allows you to wait until you hear back from a fetch request before you do another one. It's called await. For some reason, it's not in the curriculum. So, if I reload this, there we go. That time we heard back from the get response, get parameter first. Right? So most of the time we're hearing back from the post first, but like every like 5th or 6th time we hear back from the other one first. But let's just take a look at our network traffic. There you have, you can see that our request method has been successfully set to post for the post request, which, although it is, we're hearing back from the get parameter first, it is certainly being sent second. This shows you the order in which the requests are sent and not heard back from. Make sense? Good. You can probably if you kind of, you can like look at the timeline here and like see what's hearing back from what when, but that's okay. We don't need to know about that because we're not networking people. So, good. So, this is the error that I was talking about with the assignment. If you attach the parameters in the same way that you do for the get request in the post request, they still count as get parameters when they hit the server. Right? Just because you have changed the method type to post, it doesn't magically transform all of your get parameters into post parameters. You have to send them as post parameters. Make sense?
Is the same thing happening right here in the network tab? We have responding update key. It's the same.
So in the network tab, well, first you can tell between the two of these because it tells you what line of JavaScript it was executed from. But if you take a look, yeah, this is a post request. That one's a get request. Make sense?
Yeah.
Was that your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't do it like that. Before we do that though, now that we've opened this up, there is one thing I'd like to show you before I let you loose on assignment 5, which you need to know. So When you upload your assignment 5, will you be doing so to your public or HTML folder or your private folder within a public HTML? Private, yes, good, because otherwise you are not sufficiently protecting your work from academic integrity violations, because people can just yoink your client-side code if you post it publicly. That counts as posting it publicly. Posting in public counts as public posting. So, in your private folder, any request to anything in your private folder must include credentials, right? In order for the AJAX request to send those credentials, you have to tell it to send those credentials, right? Because by default it doesn't. So, for all of the AJAX requests that you write for your assignment, you will need to include the following option as well. Credentials include. So, even on your get parameter, or even on your get request. There. Without that, it won't work in your private folder. Okay? Sound good? All good? Good, good, good? Yes?
Okay. I answered my question I had. I'm good.
Sounds good. So, now we need to attach the post parameters that we want to send inside of the payload. We have to do that ourselves. We do that, once again, using the request options. Body gets params. So that's one of the purposes of externalizing the parameters like this. It means that you can send them by concatenating into the resource name, or you can send them inside of the body of the, you don't have to change the format, right? However, it still won't quite work. Let's see how it works thus far, right? It's still not picking them up as post parameters. If we take a look, payload, the payload is a string, but it just thinks it's a string. We need to inform the server how these parameters have been encoded, right? And we do that by modifying the content type. You can see that content type is currently set to text/HTML, which is the default, right? We need to set content type to a long, complicated thing that I don't expect anybody to memorize, because I don't. When they say your privacy matters, do you believe them? Is my camera running? That's a good question. Is it? Yes, it is. Okay, good. So, let's see. Okay. I will make one exception to the thing I said where if it says it's optional, it doesn't have to be on the exam, and it's this, because it's necessary for the assignment. So this says it's optional, but it's not. In this case only. Okay? Alright. Because, like, it's on the assignment, so, you know, it's testable. This is the line! Look at that! Whoa! Dude! There it is. So, am I going to be able to get both on screen at the same time? Yeah, there we go. Headers. You could set lots of header fields using the same mechanism, but at the moment we're only interested in content type. Come on, where's my cursor? You didn't just fail on me, did you? Are you? What's going on? Cancel. Thank you. Content dash type. Application slash x dash www dash form dash URL encoded.
You have a typo in application.
Oh, thank you. Applicatoin. There we go. Thank you. So, having set the header and set the content type, if we go back to this guy, aha! There you go. Now, we are receiving the post parameters, but the only thing is it's including that little question mark. So, the wise thing to do is to do this. Take the question mark out of parameters and put it in only in the GET request where it's necessary. There you go. Does that make sense? You see the difference? Any questions? Could I repeat it again? Sure. So the parameters that we are sending are encoded the same way as the for get and for post, right? We can send just text content to the server if we want to, right? But in order for it to show up as a post parameter, we need to tell the server how it's been encoded, right? That's what this line does. It's saying, put this in the header. Our content type is application data, www form URL encoded, which is the actual, like that's what the format that we're using is called. Like, we usually call it query parameters because nobody wants to say xwww form URL encoded. It's too clunky, right? Does that make sense? Any other question?
Sorry, I missed the part, you said remove the symbols for the post, but did you create another, did you copy the parameters variable and then just remove it?
Now let me review what I did there. So
Oh, okay, you just added it in that line, okay.
I just added it there, yeah. Make sense? Question?
I'm getting an error 404 in like my console. I don't know.
Let me take a look.
Like it's working here in the column, but I'm actually missing my.
Oh, so favicon.ico is like, you know how like you get that little icon?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's looking for that and it can't find it. It has nothing to do with what we're doing.
Oh, I figured so. So when I do stuff first.
Yeah.
How to fix that?
Well, you can, the only way to fix it is to put the icon file in the server. But I think it might just be a Firefox thing.
Okay.
Chrome doesn't complain about it as much. Yeah. I mean, like, it'll still use it if it finds it, right? Like, it's still trying to load it. If you go to your network tab, it should still be trying to load it, favicon. No, maybe it's just a Firefox thing.
It's still on Chrome as well.
Alright.
I have an icon. Why do I not?
You got a little blue. Yeah. I don't know. Oh.
I also have the file icon stuff.
Weird.
On Firefox.
What's that?
Oh,
I don't know.
actually loaded. That's for
Wait, yeah, my first line of Ajax. Maybe just time that.
That's why we should use.
Wait, no,
yeah.
I reloaded it. It's gone. I reloaded.
It was showing up in the post parameter, then the post parameter name where it's not supposed to be. So if you're sending post requests, it doesn't want the question mark. So yeah. Or at least it doesn't know what to do with it. Oh no. Yes. Ampersand separates the two parameters, yeah. Oh man. So if you take a look at the post request again, and you take a look at the payload, you'll see that it's now been formatted as form data, which, you know, makes sense. We've told it how it's encoded now. View, parse, view source, view URL encoded, decoded, right? You can also view the response this way, which is very useful when you're debugging the code. Are there any other questions? I seem to have the hiccups. Unfortunate. we'll see if that worked. Yes,
He was going to say.
It's
Alright.
forbidden.
I think for the rest of the class, I'm gonna walk around and help people get this working. So, because I kind of, at this point, have covered it, so. Alright, yeah. Which kind of means I don't need to record anymore. So, yeah,